Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing TRICARE in the context of Thai retirement visas. And this came to my attention via a viewer who sent an email quoting directly, "Hi, forwarding an article from Pattaya Today," and we'll throw this on screen, pattayatoday.net, adjusted health insurance to attract more long-term high-spending expats. But again, quoting from the person who sent this, "Hi, forwarding an article from Pattaya Today regarding the new 3 million baht insurance requirement for retirees. Specifically, the article references the ability to use health insurance from abroad certified by an embassy in lieu of the 3 million baht insurance requirement." Quoting directly, "The new rules also make it," and this is quoting from Pattaya Today, "the new rules also make it easier for expats who cannot obtain insurance in Thailand and thus risk having their application for extension of stay rejected, as these applications can now use health insurance from abroad or a government benefit from abroad. However, this must be certified by relevant government agencies such as a foreign embassy in Thailand or the country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs." End quote. And then quoting from the person who sent this, "I know in the past you have addressed the difficulty of using an existing health insurance policy in lieu of the mandatory Thai health insurance requirements." Get into that in a minute. Quoting further, "The Pattaya Today article seems to imply that it may be easier to do now." Get into that in a minute. Quoting further, "I'm specifically interested in using TRICARE in lieu of the mandatory health insurance. I would love to see a future video from you addressing any new updates on this topic." Well, here you go. First of all, health insurance in lieu of mandatory health insurance requirements. And what we've explained before is actually there's always been an alternative technically on the books from a regulatory perspective. However, as we've discussed, as a practical matter in a lot of cases, it may end up being in a situation where it's impossible to prove up the coverage of that insurance. We've seen this a lot. Insurance providers don't want to sign off on a document that says that they cover XYZ or something outside of the language of their documentation. So it results in a de facto need to obtain Thai insurance under certain circumstances. Meanwhile, and the issue with TRICARE that I see practically, just specific to TRICARE, and I'll get into one other part here in a minute of this analysis. TRICARE is a reimbursement, yet you're insured, but you pay first and then you're reimbursed. The issue and the policy reason for why this insurance requirement came about in the first place back in 2019 was they were concerned about people either skipping out on their bill, which I don't think was the fundamental concern at the end of the day. I think more the issue was one of what happens if someone passes away in Thailand and they can't get the money. Well, you know, with TRICARE, where it's a reimbursement thing, I'm not certain that it meets the requirement or it meets the policy goals that these folks, these executives, these government folks were thinking of when they sort of created these requirements. Now, another thing that's interesting, quoting directly, "However, this must be certified by a relevant government agency such as a foreign embassy in Thailand or the country's Ministry of Foreign Affairs." Now, as we've seen, depending on the country, you may or may not be able to get certified documentation pertaining to insurance. As we've discussed in prior videos going back a while now, which time has flown, the income documentation, the income affidavits used to be readily issued, for example, by the U.S. Embassy here in Bangkok. And they stopped doing that because the embassy cited that they were unable to certify the veracity of the statement. I think there may be, even with TRICARE, although maybe with TRICARE it might be a possibility to get that certified because it's actually issued by a government authority or through a government authority. That said, just sort of in a more general context, certification of insurance documentation by, for example, the U.S. Embassy or other embassies here in Bangkok may not be the most straightforward thing. Now, in time, it may be a possibility. I would not presume we're going to see that happening anytime soon, or at least in the foreseeable future. because, again, this veracity of the documentation issue, and also because there isn't currently a framework to do that in place. So long story short, it remains to be seen. I think it's possible, but I would not bank on it anytime in the foreseeable future.